Okay, I hope we have a forum. We are good to start. So today we are going to talk about mm, software and hardware requirements. Let's take an example. You got a requirement to implement Sailpoint. Maybe your project, your client, they are using some other IAM solution, not Sailpoint. Some other IAM tools they are using. Now they want to migrate, or maybe they are planning for a fresh implementation. It could be anything. So, as an architect, not as a support engineer, not as a developer, most of the time, support architect is going to design the architectural document. Okay, it depends. So, in if you are an architect and if you get these kind of requirement, how to tackle that situation. So, you should know what are the components are required. You have to decide which software we are going to install, as well as how you are going to decide the hardware requirement, because we have to decide, right, how many number of servers are required, and out of X server, how many UI server, how many task server required, whether load balancer are required or not. In that scenario, how to configure all server into one. And so everything, it depends on the number of employees, number of applications, everything. So that's what we are going to learn today briefly. Okay. So before getting to this, I would like to know: do we have any architect? Do we have anyone who is architect already for any other product, not only for SailPoint? Do we have anyone who is architect? Okay. No worries. Let's talk about software and hardware requirements. Okay. Can any one of you let us know? So, what are the software components are required? It's a fresh installation. So, what are the softwares are required?
Server and database,
Okay, you need a server,
database
database. Okay, and
and Sailpoint app we need to install on a server. Is that
okay,
right?
correct. So, you need a SailPoint application. Okay,
Okay. Mm, as per my knowledge, that is all we need.
okay. So, can any one of you elaborate what is server, or why do we require database?
To retrieve the data or database to application or the something
Okay.
if I want to retrieve some information. I mean in terms of table or
Correct.
anything.
Always remember, we require our own database, SailPoint own database. We may have each and every application will have their source data, right? And all the source data will be stored in somewhere. It could be database, it could be cloud, anywhere. They have stored all their data. As a similar way, SailPoint is one of the application. You should treat SailPoint as an application, and SailPoint application should own a database. Okay, why? Because it's our primary job, it's primary task to maintain, manage all the user data, application data, etc., etc. So we should have our own database and we can manage efficiently. So that's the ultimate purpose. So definitely we are going to implement one database server where we will create one SailPoint database. Okay, so here we have mentioned application server, but I would like to elaborate. So it's going to be application server. So anyone, can you tell us why do we require application server? So database server, it's fine. So we are going to store the data of an identities, employees, applications, and a lot of identity object. But why do we require application server?
So we need application to deploy any of the application, the server to deploy any of the application. So SailPoint is again an application. So we need the application server to deploy the Sailpoint application.
Exactly. So our ultimate purpose, we need to install Sailpoint. Sailpoint is our application. The moment you are planning to install our application, definitely we need an application server because that's the place where we are going to deploy our application. So I'll demonstrate tomorrow. We'll come to know. Once we install the application server, we will deploy our Sailpoint application. Okay. So I have a question again. So is all three components are required, or do we need to add any extra components? What about Java?
Java environment variables. Java.
Exactly. So we require Java. Okay. So these 4 items are enough. So when it comes to Java, you can go ahead for Oracle Java or Oracle JDK, that's fine. But application server, can you name out few application server? So
Tomcat,
Apache
Apache.
Tomcat is the
Tomcat,
most
Apache.
exactly. So Apache Tomcat is one of the application which is used widely across all the projects platform, I would say. It's a most common used application. So apart from Apache Tomcat, if you want to suggest to the client
Informatics or
Informatica,
no, not Informatica.
So so widely used app server is Apache Tomcat, no
yeah,
WebLogic.
when it comes to Sailpoint, it's a widely used application server.
So is it possible the enterprise use WebLogic or WebSphere?
Yeah, definitely we can plan WebLogic and WebSphere too.
Okay, JBoss.
Exactly. Yeah. So we can plan for JBoss also. Okay. So at least today you have learned. So we have 4 different type of application server. We can deploy our application into this. Okay. So when it comes to database server, you have a lot of options. You can plan for Microsoft SQL Server. You can plan for
Oracle, even Postgres, MySQL. MySQL comes with the
Okay. So Microsoft, Oracle, and
even
MySQL also, right? Direct.
Yeah, MySQL. What is that? PostgreSQL, something you'll call.
Yeah, we have a lot of options over here.
And also,
So
in case if you wanted to use like AWS, those things also easy. I mean,
yeah,
like
we can use that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Azure, it's automatically same like MySQL, right?
Correct.
MySQL.
Yeah. Azure, AWS, we can use. Okay, but when it comes to real-time project, most of the clients prefer to install Microsoft SQL Server because this is what I've seen. Okay, maybe if they are planning to migrate or if they're planning for advanced tool, they can go for AWS or Azure. Okay, but whatever environment currently I'm working, it's already 5 to 6 years older projects. So they are implementing this Microsoft. They have already implemented Microsoft SQL and all. Okay.
Do we have database for Azure and AWS?
Yeah.
Oh, what is the database for AWS?
Just a minute, guys. Let me.
I think AWS. Maybe there are some what their own databases. AWS. Maybe that maybe support. I think so. AWS.
Guys, I'm audible?
Yes.
Okay. Really sorry, guys. If I'm again, if there is any audio issue, just let me know. I'll repeat it again. Okay. Okay. So someone has some question, right? They were talking about database server something. I missed that. Can you repeat?
I was
Sorry?
asking, is there any database which comes with the AWS and Azure? So I'm not sure. Okay, all right, you can proceed.
Yeah, okay. So when it comes to Sailpoint application, from where we are going to get it? Who is responsible to provide this application? Any idea?
Sailpoint company itself.
Okay, are
We
they
need to
going?
take the license.
Yes, exactly. So if you're planning to implement, definitely we need to reach Sailpoint sales team and technical team. Okay, they have a infrastructure team, so we can reach out to them. They will help you, and they will provide the war file. Always, you should remember it's a war file. War file is nothing. It's a combination of XML objects and Java class. Okay, so we will get this war file. We used to call it as Sailpoint software binaries. So we can get these binaries, Sailpoint software binaries from the Sailpoint team, product team. So they will provide the war file. So these 4 items is enough to implement Sailpoint from software standpoint. Okay, we can pick easily, but when it comes to hardware, it's very difficult. Right? Because let's say you are going to install Sailpoint on your local machine, on your personal system, or either you are going to implement on real-time project. Same Java you are going to install, same application server, same database server, same Sailpoint software binary. There is no changes on that. Okay, maybe the version may differ, but the same all components you are going to implement. But when it comes to hardware, how you are going to decide whether the 4 GB RAM is enough or we require 32 GB RAM, how many servers are required. So how we are going to decide? We should have some baseline, right, to decide these items. How we are going to decide? Maybe let's say you are going to implement Sailpoint for State Bank of India or Royal Bank of Canada. It's a banking client, banking environment. When it comes to banking environment, the user database, the user will be very big, right? For each and every user, we have to manage. So in that scenario, how you are going to decide the hardware component? And once again, you are not the only one who is going to decide. Okay? There will be a couple of people team, but how you are going to decide? Based on what? Take a minute, try to think. We'll talk about it. Have you thought about it, guys, before? Okay. So these hardware requirements will be decided based on, from my personal experience, I would say, the number of identity object. Okay. So identity is fine, but what is identity object? Guys, I'm audible?
Yeah, you're audible. Each identity is considered as an object in SailPoint.
Correct. But what is identity object? Identity is one of the object. I agree on that. But what is identity object?
The object which holds the identity.
No. So whatever object in whatever item is available in SailPoint, we are going to consider those items as an object. For example, application, we are going to onboard, right? So application is one of the object. We are going to implement a couple of policies, let's say. So policy is another object type, I would say. We are planning for user access review, certification. So certification is one of the object. Okay. So the similar way, we have lot of different type of objects in Sailpoint. Okay. End user is going to submit access request to gain some XYZ application access. So you can consider that ticket as a object. For Sailpoint, each and every item, whatever you are going to submit for approval item, application, certification, everything Sailpoint is going to consider as an object. And identity object means whatever objects associate with identity. We should consider those objects as an identity object. Are we clear?
Okay. Yeah.
Make a note here. You should know what is identity and identity object. Both are not same. Because if you understand, these items, these clearly will be very helpful. So identity object means whatever items are associated with identities. And you guys know what is identity. Identity is nothing, it's a digital identity, so which will be created from HR application, the source application account aggregation.
So you mean to say identity, the user is again an identity and application is also an identity in Sailpoint.
Application is identity object, you can say.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll try to explain from Sailpoint standpoint. I'll log into Sailpoint. I'll explain just a minute. Admin. Now we'll choose one identity. Okay, Aaron Nichols is one identity. Is an employee. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So this employee means this is one identity object. Okay, it's an identity, but we can consider this is one of the identity object. So this identity has access to a couple of applications, which means these applications are associated with this identity, right? So we should consider this application as one of the identity object. Okay, so company has implemented a couple of policies, and some policies are violated by this identity. So whatever policies and policy violations are associated with this identity, we should consider those items as an identity object. Okay, we are going to implement risk management. We are going to track everything, because whatever changes is going to happen to this identity, maybe he got new access, maybe some access has been revoked by a certification process. So each and everything will be tracked, right? So these items you can consider as an identity object. And he has access to Sailpoint application. He may have some privileged access. Whatever ticket has been submitted so far, whatever event has been triggered, so everything will be managed in the identity with the help of identity object. Are we clear now? So that's why I said whatever items are associated with identities, we should consider as identity object.
So Aaron Nicole is not an identity object. So the applications and the access policies which is associated to Aaron Nicholas is identity object.
Okay. From your standpoint, Aaron Nichols is one identity, right?
Yeah.
But from Sailpoint standpoint, Sailpoint will consider all the items as an identity object in a simple way. You got it? For Sailpoint, Aaron Nichols is one identity object.
Aaron Nicole is again an identity object, and all the applications associated with Aaron Nicole is again an identity object.
Exactly.
So everything is an object, identity object.
Correct. So in Sailpoint, we have an object browser. Okay. So here, I hope you guys will understand. If you're going to implement any alert, so then alert is one of the identity object. Application is one of the identity object. Bundle, audit event, audit configuration. We have a lot of identity objects. As I said already, certification. Okay. Email template, form, identity. Again, as identity comes under identity object.
Okay.
So what is the difference between identity object and object browser?
So we can access all the identity object with the help of object browser. It's like a repository. It's kind of repository where we can access all the identity object. Got it?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So let's get back to this hardware requirement. So what I was trying to say, IAQ installation, Sailpoint Identity IQ, because Identity IQ is the product what we are going to implement, not identity now. So that Identity IQ installation may come in different shapes or different size, I would say. Okay. So we won't be able to decide very easily. Okay. So most of the time, that pivot chart and some data statistics shown that over 95% of the IAQ installation we can group into 5 categories. 5 footprint category, I would say. The statistics have shown. So, what is footprint? Because as an architect, when you are going to discuss, you should know these terms. Okay. So footprint is nothing. It's a kind of hardware deployment topology. Okay. So which supports IAQ installation on a certain of a certain scale. Okay. If you're going to plan, so footprint is nothing. It's a hardware topology. So we have 5 different type of topology. One, micro footprint. So medium footprint. Micro, medium, small footprint, large, and 5th one. And the 5th one will be something. So we can pick any one of this footprint category and we can easily implement Sailpoint. Okay. So these implementation, at least these whatever specification we are going to choose based on this footprint, at least it will you can expect 2 to 3 years of a life cycle of the system, reasonable growth of a system. Okay. So each and every footprint will have some specific hardware requirement. Okay, this may differs. It depends on the number of identity objects. So once again, I'm saying we can pick any one of these category. It depends on the number of identity objects. Let's say your company has less than 5,000 identity objects. In that scenario, we can choose this micro footprint.
I mean, will they mention the deployment document about the this many objects need to, or like which footprint we want to go, or
exactly, yeah. So in the documents it will be mentioned, but we can pick any one of this footprint category. Okay. So before choosing this footprint category, we have to decide. We have to plan on a certain scale. These many objects we are going to maintain. These many applications we are going to onboard, these many policies we are going to implement, not exactly, but approximately we have to decide. So based on that, we can choose the footprint and each and every footprint will have specific hardware requirement. Are we clear?
Yeah.
Okay. So less than 5,000 identity objects means, let's say we have some 200 to 300 employees. We have some like 10 to 15 applications. We have implemented 50 policies, and we are planning to review the user access on a quarterly basis. So we may execute 5 to 10 certifications. So those 200, 300 users may submit access requests. Okay, let's consider 2 access requests they are going to submit. So when it comes to 200 means 400 access requests will get submit, 100 approval item will get generate. So you have to plan on a large scale. It depends on your project and client. If it is less than 5,000 identity objects, then 4 GB RAM is enough as per the document. So you require 40 GB space. Yeah, I mean, you require only one host or one server is enough. Okay, so now we have one server, 4 GB RAM is enough, 40 GB space is enough, that's fine. But when it comes to server should have some operating system, right? What about the operating system? could be Windows or it could be Linux. Okay. So this server has Windows operating system. Let's take an example. So this machine has 4 GB RAM, 40 GB space. So we can implement Sailpoint very easily. So now the real picture is we are going to install Java on this server. We are going to install this application server called Apache Tomcat in this server. So this Microsoft SQL server, again in the same server. And we are going to deploy our application also, which means all four together, we are going to install everything on the same single server. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so RAM space, it's enough. What about the processor? So dual core processor, at least you can expect. As per the document, guys, because nowadays we are having more than this. When if you are planning to purchase any system or server, whatever it may be, so we will get more than this. So when it comes to small footprint, if you're planning to maintain 5,000 to 10,000 object. So in this scenario, you may require 8 GB RAM. So you require 200 GB space, something like that. So again, dual core processor. So if you require the updated document, you can get in touch with the technical team, Sailpoint technical team. They will provide this hardware topology. So based on that, you can decide. Okay. So here you may increase the number of servers, like 2 to 3. Okay. So now when you have 2 to 3 server, let's take an example, 2 server you have. So how you are going to decide, how you are going to implement this? All 4 items, all 4 components. If it is one, we can implement everything on the same, right? We can install everything on the same server. Now you have 2 or 3 server, then how you are going to choose?
I would suggest we can deploy all the 4 in 2 servers so that we can have higher availability.
Okay, that's right. So always remember, guys, when you are going to increase the number of server, you should assign one individual server for DB activity. Okay. So out of 3 server, what can we do? We can exclude one server and we can assign that particular server only for DB server. Okay. So that we can manage our database efficiently. So second, when we have remaining 2 server, right? So we can implement Java application server and Sailpoint software binaries into that.
Are these small footprints still companies uses or what?
So most of
Like
the small enterprises, they may
footprint?
use. So this micro footprint, which will be useful for us, like it's a non-production environment, right?
Mm-hmm.
So ours is non-production environment. So we can choose this footprint, micro footprint. So you require 4 GB RAM, 40 GB space. So our laptop will have this specific requirement, hardware requirement. So we can choose this micro footprint. But when it comes to like small enterprise where only 100 employees are working and we have to manage their data, in that scenario, we can pick this small footprint. But when it comes to when it comes to corporate, larger environment, definitely they have to choose either large footprint, or fifth category. Okay.
All right.
Okay. When it comes to medium footprint, so 10,000 to 50,000 identity object. So again, you may have 8 or 16 GB RAM. When it comes to real-time project, at least you will have 16 GB RAM, guys. So 500 GB space. Okay, when we are going to talk about space, so we are going to install these three component, right? Except database server. So in that server, 2 GB space is enough. But when it comes to database server, you always plan for larger space, like 1 terabyte, 2 terabyte, something like that. Okay. So again, 200 GB for normal server. And 1 terabyte space for maybe you can, I would say 500 GB DB server. So you require dual core or 4-core processor. And here we can increase 3 to 5 servers, something like that. Okay, the moment you are going to increase the number of server, some server will work as a load balancer, some server will work as a UI server, okay, user interface server. Some server will work as a task server, batch server. I hope you guys have an idea about this. What is UI, task server and all? If no, we can talk about that. Can we?
What is that?
What is UA server, task server, batch server, load balancer?
No, load balancer. But about you as server.
What is a task server and UI server?
Okay, so on a high level, we'll talk about that. I'll make a note, okay? Let me complete this after that we'll talk. UI server, task server,
And the load balancer. Yeah.
batch server, and load balancer. Because here we are going to mention like 3 to 5 server, 2 to 3 server, 7 to 8 server, or maybe more than 20 server. It depends on the number of identity objects that what we are going to manage. That's fine. But out of those server, we have to decide, we have to segregate. Okay, out of 20, 4 server or 5 server will act as a task server. Remaining 5 server will act as a UA server. Couple of server will work as a load balancer server. So we have to dedicate, we have to assign. So we'll talk about that. So if you are planning to maintain 10,000 to 50,000 identity objects, then we can choose this medium footprint. That's fine. So if it is between 50,000, which means 50K to 500K, 500K, then we can choose this large footprint. So here the number of server is going to increase. Again, 16 or 32 GB. To have a user experience, if you want to make a user experience much better, definitely we should increase the hardware requirement. Like here, you require 1 terabyte for all server. Instead of normal, we can mention UI or task. Guys, and once again, the number may change slightly. Okay. Better we can ask Sailpoint technical team to get the latest hardware topology document. Okay. If you are an architect. So here 1 terabyte, or you should have 2 terabyte space for database server. So here definitely you require 4-core processor. Here you can have 3 to 7 or 5 to 7, or else more than 7 server. It depends on the document, latest document, you can check. I would mention more than 7. Okay. So what is the 5th category? If you are planning to manage more than 500K identity objects, more than 5 lakh. So in this scenario, it will be difficult to decide the hardware requirement on our own. So instead of doing that, what can we do? We can reach the Sailpoint technical team to get the help from their end. So they will get our requirement, how many identity objects, what we are going to implement, manage, and what kind of procedural changes, what kind of customization we are looking for. So they will get everything. They will prepare the architectural document, design document, and they will help us in the implementation, and they will charge some XYZ amount. Okay. So the 5th option is call option. Call Sailpoint team. So they will take care on their own everything. Okay. So this will be the 5th category. So the most of the time it will be used in 4th category and 5th footprint category. Okay. Are we clear?
Yes, Rakesh.
Okay.
Yeah,
And one more thing I would like to let you. Yeah, go ahead.
No, but I mean, are we going to see like at least the micro footprint, like, kind of we're going to do like
Yes,
basic.
exactly. So we are going to, because ours is non-production environment, right?
Yeah.
And we are going to maintain less than 5,000 identity objects. So we can choose the micro footprint.
I mean,
So one server is enough.
Okay.
Okay. So in
I
that
mean, what exactly identity objects exactly means? What exactly? What is the one which you showed me? Like, the users or users identity that is called identity objects, or
Okay. So Suresh, let's take an example. You're an employee of XYZ company, right? You have joined the company, joined the project. Your identity got created, right?
yes.
So your identity is one of the identity object.
Okay, like
Sailpoint
that
will
5,000.
consider your identity object as one of the identity object. You may require some application in order to perform day-to-day activities like Active Directory application, ServiceNow application, etc., right? So those access you are going, Sailpoint will grant to your identity. So Sailpoint will consider those application accounts as another type of identity object.
Okay.
Okay. In future, you may violate some policies. Some policy violation will be triggered. Again, some item will be generated, right? So those policy violation item, it's a identity object.
Okay.
From
Everything is
Sailpoint
identity
standpoint,
object. Okay.
exactly. So from Sailpoint standpoint, each and every item, it will consider as an identity object.
Oh, that's what the numbers is more. That's the reason we're taking like too many numbers, like 500,000, 500,000, 10,000.
Exactly. Because we are not sure, right? Each and every company will have 500K employees. We are not sure. If it is a banking environment, larger scale, that's fine. But when it comes to small enterprises, we have to plan everything, like employees, applications, servers, hardware, everything we have to decide. We have to define.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah. And I would like to add one more point here. Always remember, Sailpoint no longer recommends 32-bit operating system or maybe 32-bit softwares like Java. It won't recommend. Always Sailpoint will recommend 64-bit hardware and software is recommended for all type of installation. Okay. Regardless of whatever type of footprint it may be, always Sailpoint will recommend 64-bit hardware system, hardware and software.
So you said banking client. So for example, State Bank of India. So it's having some like 5 crore customer they have.
Yeah.
So all the 5 crore customers' data will be there in SailPoint, or they will have their they have their own database and they will keep their the customer detail in
That's a good question.
database, right?
Okay, that's a good question. So State Bank of India is a company, right? Imagine it's a company. They have 5 crore users. So it's State Bank of India's primary task to maintain everything, right? They should manage, they should protect the data, user data from cyber attacks, correct?
Yeah.
And whenever the transaction is going to happen, they are going to track everything. They are going to store all these items, right? Everything.
Yeah.
So definitely they require some tool, some application in the backend.
Yeah.
So they can choose Sailpoint.
But they have their own application, and the application, so the transaction detail, everything will be there in the application, right?
Okay, that's a
Why they
good
go for
point.
Sailpoint for that?
So they need a centralized system, right? Centralized dashboard, centralized system. They like unified portal. They can track everything. They have their own application, so that application will be used by all the users. What can we do now? We can onboard a particular YONO SBI application or something. We can integrate that application with Sailpoint. We can integrate their own database with Sailpoint, so that we can manage everything from single place, from one place.
Are they doing like that? I mean, is
No, I'm
any
not sure whether State Bank is doing or not. But when it comes to like Capital One Bank, Royal Bank of Canada, ANZ Bank, they are using Sailpoint. Okay, like
they are
Walmart.
using Sailpoint as the centralized repository, like the internal bank employee use Sailpoint to monitor or track the transaction, not the customer, right?
Yes.
Okay.
They will only integrate, right? Integrate Sailpoint to the centralized server. From there, they can access everything, it seems, for their user information, user data.
Correct.
Okay.
So any other question, guys? I think we need to talk about all the terminologies as well. I think that's what we discussed yesterday. We have to talk about them. Or is it not required?
Anyone go for architect? Yeah, these are all required, I guess. No, if anyone wanted to go for an architect, we need these details, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. So that's why I cover initially. If you are going to work as an architect, definitely you should aware about this footprint topology, what kind of different type of footprint we have, how to decide this hardware requirement. As I said already, as a developer or as a support engineer, we are not going to get into this activity. And once again, I'm saying, because this is a tricky one, in real-time project, they will ask, who will do the installation? So infrastructure team are the one who is going to do the installation, not Sailpoint developer, not support engineer, or not architect. Architect may monitor this installation, but is not going to involve in this activity. Infrastructure team will take that.
And well, one time I remember when I was in a project, they were asking the architect also do an low environment test.
No, they have installed everything. It's like a post-install validation, right? It's kind of post-install validation. Okay, we infrastructure team will say we have done the installation, it's completed successfully. You need to validate from your end. So those kind of post-install activity will be done by support engineer as well, not only architect.
Maybe small companies, they might and ask them to do kind of validations or testing.
Yeah. Once again, it depends on the project, guys. Some project architect will decide, some project support engineer is going to validate the post-install validation. It depends on the project also. Okay. And Sailpoint is one of the advanced application which is used by financial institution, banking institution, and financial most of the time. Okay. So that's all about software and hardware requirements.
When healthcare also, they use healthcare for the user identity access management, Sailpoint.
Healthcare too, yeah. Healthcare and healthcare also they are using. I remember one of the client came. I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't take. And generally, I would say Capital One Bank, Royal Bank of Canada, Unify, SuperValue. If you belongs to US, Canada, you may have this name, SuperValue, Unify. And one of the largest retirement fund holder, State Street. Have you heard this name? State Street.
Yes.
Street?
No, no,
No.
no.
It's a financial company.
Exactly. So State Street also using Sailpoint on a larger scale. Okay. And the State Bank of India example, I mean, it's an example, guys. We are not sure whether they are using or not, how they have integrated and all, we are not sure in the backend. So for an example, I have taken that. Okay, so we have 10 more minutes. If you have anything to discuss, we can discuss. If you have anything to clarify.
Yeah, Rakesh, you are talking about the terminologies to explain.
Yeah. Yes. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, can we proceed?
Oh, sorry. Before that, we should talk about this UA server, task server, and all.
Yeah.
So, can anyone of you tell us what is UA server?
User interface. Oh, sorry.
Oh, that's right. User interface, correct?
No,
What is the
I don't.
purpose?
Maybe no.
Yeah. That's user interface server only. UA server. What will be the purpose of implementing this UA server?
Maybe the users, I mean, users does some activity on the, from the kind of front end. That's, let's say this is application. They're using this called user interface, right? Kind of GUI.
Correct. So it's a GUI, right? It's a front end. You can consider this screen as a front end screen. Or you may consider as a GUI, graphic user interface. The moment any end user is going to access this identity tab, application tab, or any other tab, they are going to perform some activity. So some load will be created, correct? If some 10 users are going to access this portal, then that's fine. If 1,000 users are going to use the same identity tab at the same time, or whatever UI tab they are going to click, some load will be created and the load will be taken care by UI server. UI load will be taken care by UA server. Similar way, whatever task we are going to run, some task means not only this task, okay? We may run a lot of jobs. I would say a lot of jobs in the backend. So those backend activities, because as an end user, you may submit access request, you may get the provisioning, you may get the application access, you may involve in this policy violation or policy activity, you may involve in the certification activity. So some or other thing in the backend, it will run. So those background activity will create some load. So the background activity load will be taken care by task server. Yeah, go ahead.
So the other page, in the debug page, you are typing the object browser, right?
Correct.
And you are typing something, and it is going to the database, bring up the result. Is
Correct.
that the UI server, or like typing, like for example,
it's a UA server activity.
So it's going to the database and getting the data. So is that it won't go to the backend, like usually like a Java application, whatever UI we have, the UI will be that I never heard any different servers. Everything will be in one server, like database one server and application one server. Everything, all the application related, done in one server. So here, like in the object browser, you are typing something. It is going to database and get the result. Is that considered typing here is the UI, and then going back to the database is the backend server? How would differentiate?
Okay. So as you said, we have 4 to 5 server, right? Let's take an example. We have implemented all server. We are going to implement the application server, everything. But the moment you have to declare out of 4 or 5 server, 2 server will act as a UA server, 2 server will act as a task server, something like that. We have to define. The moment we are going to define, the particular server will be responsible for UI activity. And as you are asking, the moment You're talking about the object browser, right? So this object browser is the replica of the Sailpoint own database, not any target application database. Okay.
Okay.
So the load will be, the activity will be taken care by UA server.
Okay.
So we have a document like property files where we can mention.
So whatever operation you are triggering from UI is will go into UA server, is it?
Exactly.
Okay.
So the same way, whatever task we are going to perform in the backend, like provisioning, certifications, so a lot of activities will be performed in the backend, right? So those backend activity will be taken care by task server. And when it comes to batch server, batch and task server both are same. In some projects, they may call it as task server. In some project, they will call it as a batch server, but both significantly same. Okay. Sorry, guys. Load balancer. What is load balancer? Any idea?
Is to manage the load of each of the servers. So if one server gets too jammed up, it balances the server. I don't know if I explained it correctly.
Something like traffic, controlling the traffic.
Oh, sorry, guys. If you don't mind, can you come again? I missed that.
Yeah, controlling the traffic. If the volume is high like that, it will be.
Okay, controlling the traffic on which server? Is it UA server or task server?
Sure.
Okay. Go ahead. Sorry. Okay, guys, let's take an example. This is UA server, right? So UA link will be provided to the end user. Imagine a scenario if 1,000 users are going to access this link at the same time. They may face some, and the user experience won't be smooth. They may face some latency issue, correct? Since 1,000 users are going to access the same link, the UA load will be more, isn't it? The UA server load will be more. So what can we do? Instead of providing UA server URL, we can provide load balancer URL to all of the users. So if 1,000 users are going to access this load balancer URL at the same time, the load balancer is responsible to split the load. In our environment, let's say we have two UA servers. So the load will be split into two UA servers. The first 500 user load will be taken care by one UA server. Another remaining 500 user load will be taken care by another UA server. So the load balancer is responsible to split the load. As I said, so it will, basically it will split the load. Does that make sense? So that's why in real-time project, definitely we require load balancer.
And also one server fails usually, one is a primary, one is a secondary, and so that it won't they share the what do you call
we can
the failover switch over in a kind of yeah.
It's not, we have to log into the particular server and we have to design whether the server is going to act as a task server or UA server. We have to click on the toggle button. That's it.
Yeah.
It's very simple. I'll show you later. So guys, are we clear so far?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's a wrap for the software and hardware requirements guides. Tomorrow we'll talk about all the IAQ terminologies, and we'll start the fresh installation on any one of your system. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you guys. Thank you all.
When installation, we're gonna install everything Tomcat or
we have to install everything.
Okay. How much time it will take?
Like 60 to 90 minutes. I'll explain everything from the scratch. So it requires 60 to 90 minutes tomorrow. Okay.
So virtual machine or
come again?
We need VMware virtual machine.
If it is a Mac system, definitely it requires. or if it is a Windows system, Windows machine, it's not.
Okay. But RAM should be like, how much RAM we required?
8
16
GB.
or
Hey,
8 GB.
Rakesh,
Yeah.
you said if it's a Mac, then I need a virtual machine?
Yeah. Yeah, Mariam. Since, as I said already, I'm not familiar with Mac and I don't know how to do the implementation on Mac system. That's why.
Okay.
Maybe if I get any help, or else we can give it, we can give a try, right? As we discussed already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll
we can
try
give it a
to.
try. And
Since
then
you are
if it
using
doesn't.
i7 processor, so we can give it a try once again.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
We'll try
Thank you.
first.
Hey,
Sure.
I have a question. So, in a typical a large scale industry, how like
Anand,
US level?
if you don't mind, can we continue tomorrow? Definitely, I'll make a note.